My Meerkat and His Kitten. Chapter 1. Kurt straightened his jacket nervously. He'd done this plenty of times, but meeting a new family always served to make him apprehensive. He wouldn't even be doing this if his new show hadn't been postponed once again. 3 months and he'd be starring in an off-Broadway show. After that, then there would be no more nanny gigs. He was sure of it. Smiling, he checked his watch and nodded, ringing the bell to the opulent Soho home. He was only mildly surprised when the door was answered by a woman in, of all things, paint-splashed skinny jeans and an old, expensive-looking, men's dress shirt as a smock. Her hair was pinned back with chopsticks and she smiled brightly. "Oh. You must be the nanny. Great timing, kid." She tugged him in. "James just finished his conference call, and Eddie is waking up from her nap. Sorry. I got carried away painting a dresser I found that just begged to be refinished." She was such a happy, pleasant woman, and Kurt was instantly relaxed and nodding despite having no idea what she was talking about. "Jamie, the nanny is here. Honey, come meet him. We got your credentials from the agency. You seem to do a lot of temp jobs. Why is that?" she asked, leading him into a rather beautiful kitchen. The cabinets were distressed and the counters marble, but it managed to not look country, but rather French country. Easy and comfortable. Used, Kurt thought, impressed. Most of the families he worked for had bare kitchens that were seldom used for more than microwave meals. Blinking and realizing the woman was still waiting for an answer, he swallowed. Right. Interview. He needed to get his head in the game. "Sorry, I was taken in by your home for a moment. I am an actor, as I'm sure you saw from my resume. I attended NYADA and, in between gigs, I take nanny jobs to help pay the bills. I like children and they seem to like me. At first it was a coincidence. Something offered to me by a co-star in a production, once it ended its run, and after seeing how well his son took to me. As they say, the rest is history." Nodding with a tender smile, the woman seemed to relax a bit. "Please have a seat. Would you like something? Water or coffee?" "Coffee would be lovely. Thank you." Kurt beamed, settling on a stool at the island. It was then that he noticed the man in the door. He was tall, sleek, and had eyes that were so green. They reminded Kurt of something, but he couldn't put his finger on it. "Hello, I'm Kurt Hummel." "Hummel? As in the congressman?" The man stepped into the room with a raised brow. Laughing, the younger nodded. "The very same. He's my father." Kurt answered proudly. "I love that guy. Voted for him twice myself." Kurt's brows shot up in surprise. These people were from Ohio? What were the chances of that? "Oh, I didn't realize." Thank you." He smiles, unsure how to respond. Things grew slightly awkward for a moment before the woman cleared her throat. Setting Kurt's coffee in front of him, and offering cream and sweetener, she started explaining. "The job consists of taking care of Kennedy, our grandchild. She's 4 years old and well, can be quite the little handful. She's so much like her father in that respect." The woman smiled. The love evident in her face and tone. He felt a pang, because Carol always used that tone when speaking of Finn. He needed to call his parents. "You'll have to cook and keep her from 6 a.m. until 9 p.m. Our son is usually home by then. He doesn't like missing out on time with Kenny." The man picked up where his wife had left off. "Which brings us to the next part. This is a 7-day-a-week thing. Our son is still in school. He's getting his PhD in engineering, so he has a lot of work to do even on weekends. Of course we will compensate you for the overtime." The man added instantly. When he tossed out a number only to have his wife contradict him and insisting on more, Kurt swallowed his tongue. Making that much over 3 months, he could budget wisely and not have to worry about expenses for a long while. He'd found himself instantly agreeing to the offer when made. Of course, I guess it really depends on Kennedy, Kurt added with a smile. After all, she's really the one who has to put up with me. He chuckled and, as if on cue, the patter of little feet was heard rushing down the stairs. Snack? A tiny voice demanded, entering the room, stopping short, and eyeing the strange man in the kitchen. Gasping, she hid behind her grandfather's legs, peeking out with a shy smile. Kneeling down, Kurt held his hand out. Hello, I am Kurt Hummel and I am auditioning for the role of Kennedy's nanny. He winked at the girl, who just giggled and stepped out, shaking his hand. Biting her lip, and looking up with the same startling, green eyes that Kurt still couldn't place, the girl eyed him up and down. Snack? Standing, Kurt lifted the small girl. Right. Let's see what we can find for a snack, and then get to know one another, shall we? When he got only a nod in affirmation, Kurt shrugged at the grandparents, who had already decided Kurt was in. Nearly 6 hours later, Kurt had bonded with his new child, signed a contract with the Smythe family, and would return next Monday to start his new job for an obscene amount of money. Grinning the entire way home, he frowned, trying to figure out what was nagging at the back of his mind. Something, he shrugged it off. Perhaps he'd forgotten to get his dry cleaning that week. At 5 to 6 in the morning, Kurt was ringing the doorbell on the house once more. He was excited to start his new job, and hoping the day would go smoothly. He dressed down, learning early that designer clothes and children were not a good combination. There he was, in his coat, red Chuck Taylors, skinny jeans, and a t-shirt that had the Beatles across it, waiting for the door to open. Again he tried the bell, before knocking. It was still not quite summer, and though days were warmer, the mornings were still chilly. When the door was swung open by a man in dark-rimmed glasses and clad only in smoff pajama bottoms and a white t-shirt, Kurt was stunned into silence, least of all by the growled exclamation. What the heck do you want? Sebastian? Kurt couldn't believe it. Standing in the doorway of this beautiful home and growling at him like the devil himself was Sebastian Smythe. He nearly face-palmed. Smythe. And the eyes. Oh, frack him. Why hadn't his stupid brain put it together? What was wrong with him? Kurt? What are you doing? The rest of his question was cut off as a small girl, still clad in a flannel princess nightgown, darted from behind her father's legs with a joyful shout of Kurt, and plowing into her new nanny's legs. The two men looked at one another in shock and horror. No way, they said at the same time.